Hello, today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about narcissism and sadism and try and answer the question, is the narcissist in my life a sadist? Following the last Google Hangout, this came up as a question I thought was a really interesting question. I eventually did get around to, I've been meaning to for months, emailing Sam Vaknin and asking that question, and as it turned out he'd actually watched the Google Hangout and he said, I've got an answer for you, and the answer is pretty good. It's useful to know, I think, what the intention is behind the often bewildering, confusing and upsetting behaviours of cluster B personality types, the dramatic, reaction-seeking, more predatory type personality types, and to work out what it is that they're doing. I'm going to read directly what Sam has written about the subject. The narcissist needs all the energy he can muster to obtain new sources of narcissistic supply, and would rather not spend these scarce resources over what he regards as human refuse, the waste left after the extraction of narcissistic supply. This is me talking now. That was Sam. It's important to realise exactly what kind of mindset that they're coming from. Sam has just described there in very brutal terms the rather savage way in which the narcissist views other human beings, that predator-prey mindset. I think we can all lose sight of this, even people who are very familiar with the subject. Sometimes I'm talking to people who are familiar with the subject and then they'll turn around and they'll ask me one of those horribly, frighteningly naive questions that makes me worry about them as regards to the behaviour of a narcissist. So they'll have an understanding and they'll have mapped a degree of understanding over here, and then you'll see that over there they actually can't apply the same principles over here to another subject, as the brain kind of blocks it because it is so traumatic, and because the brain, I think, your mind, is constantly trying to fight the notion of what kind of evil we're talking about and what level of evil there is that is present. This is Sam speaking. A narcissist would tend to display the sadistic aspect of his personality in one of two cases. One, that the very acts of sadism themselves generate narcissistic supply to be consumed by the narcissist. In quotation marks, I inflict pain, therefore I am superior and omnipotent. Or, the second case, that the victims of his sadism are still his only or major sources of narcissistic supply, but are perceived by him to be intentionally frustrating and withholding. Sadistic acts are his way of punishing them for not being docile, obedient, admiring and adoring as he expects them to be in view of his uniqueness, cosmic significance and special entitlement. Both of these seem to be suggesting that sadism is a byproduct. It's not the end goal. There are personality types for whom sadism is the end goal. Sam actually even talks about the masochism of narcissists, but it's not a massively significant trait. I mean, I think this is why it doesn't feature in the 9 significant traits for narcissism. Sadism is incidental. So the first instance that he describes where sadism would be present would just if it generates narcissistic supply. They only want supply. One way of thinking about the narcissistic personality disorder is to think in terms of helpless addicts. They cannot help themselves but be addicted to that admiration, attention. They're hyper competitive. They need to sort of flaunt their superiority over other people. They cannot help themselves, and an act of sadism can do that, but it's not the sadism that is important. Over the years, through my own self-analysis, I've seen narcissistic traits in myself, but particularly I was worried that when I was growing up, the way my complex PTSD response has manifested has been more typified, if you're into the 4 Fs of the trauma responses of complex PTSD, was a fight response, a very, very angry response. And I did see sadism in myself, but that sadism was the end goal. I wasn't a sadist to get narcissistic supply. I had sadistic tendencies as much as I had masochistic tendencies. sadistic tendencies there, the desire to inflict pain on somebody else as its own reward, as its own purpose. So I saw that more of a psychopathic sort of leaning, antisocial personality disorder type of leaning. And the second thing, as he says, if you have the victim of the sadism is the sole source of narcissistic supply in the environment, and that source of narcissistic supply is withholding the supply or being difficult, not complying, resisting, not submitting, then that would inflict a narcissistic injury, which would generate narcissistic rage, and this would be, if you like, a form of a narcissistic punishment, as it were. So yes, there will be acts of sadism there, but it is not the sadism itself that is important. That's not what's going on there. So I thought that was really interesting. He goes on to say that the narcissist is not a full-fledged sadist, masochist or paranoiac. He does not enjoy hurting his victims. He does not believe firmly that he is the focal point of persecution and the target of conspiracies, but he does enjoy punishing himself when it provides him with a sense of relief, exoneration and validation. That is his masochistic streak. Because of his lack of empathy and his rigid personality, he often inflicts great physical or mental pain on meaningful others in his life, and he enjoys their writhing and suffering. In this restricted sense, yes, he is a sadist. So what he's saying is, you will see sadistic acts, and the purpose of the act, yes, is to cause pain. So in a restricted sense, yes, technically that is a sadistic pattern of behaviour, but there's an end goal. You've got to remember the Machiavellianism of the narcissistic predatory mindset, if you like, the dark triad personality, that psychopathic, borderline, narcissistic, predatory personality. This is the kind of thing that they will do, and that Machiavellianism is the end justifies the means. Well, the end is narcissistic supply. If the means is sadism, then let it be sadism. If it's not sadism, if it's something, it could be charity work, but it could have the same goal. So I could do charity, if I'm not saying all charity work is a narcissist, whoa, slow down. But if I do have malignant NPD, malignant narcissistic personality disorder, and I use my religious work or my charity work to get narcissistic supply, by this definition, it's the same thing as an act of sadism if it's there to get narcissistic supply, like deliberately hurting or annoying my customers. I've just seen that my dog has escaped into the road outside. Okay, better go and rescue him. I don't know how he's Houdini'd his way out. The thing to remember here is that sadism does manifest in narcissistic personality disorder, but that doesn't make them sadists per se, technically, unless you're talking about the restricted definition that Sam mentions here. When people get hurt by apparently sadistic acts by the narcissistic personality type, often what they can find is that they find themselves looking for vengeance, looking for revenge. I've collaborated on a series of books with somebody that's about narcissistic abuse and recovering from narcissistic abuse. But the first book that we've done is how to take revenge on a narcissist specifically by understanding the narcissistic personality structure. And I do believe that it takes a nuanced understanding of what the narcissistic personality is in order to take that kind of vengeance effectively. But if you're interested in that book is available to get now on Kindle, Amazon. Just follow this link and it'll take you to it. If you do get it and you do like it, please write me a review. If you do write me a review, send me an email after and say, hey, I wrote you a review, and I will give you a free gift. Cool. Thank you very much for your time and your attention, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you.